Hey there everyone, Jonathan Wolf with U-Time Coaching here, and today's topic for the video is going to be around what I refer to as mental triage, okay? And so I'll explain a little bit about what that is, but what we're really going to talk about is the sensitivity to it, not from a receiving the triage, but how quickly do we kind of jump into action and our flag goes up and says, this person needs help, or something's wrong, something's off. Okay, so the sensitivity to reacting to that triaging. So triaging is really just kind of how do we assess the urgency that someone else needs care. Okay, and so we might look at symptoms, we might look at how the emotional state, we might look at kind of past experiences and how people have responded in certain ways. So we're going to talk about this in terms of other people, not necessarily how do we triage ourselves, which are completely along the same lines, but can be a topic that would last tons of hours. All right, so we're really going to talk about other people and the sensitivity to jumping into gear there. So how do we assess the urgency? Having a system to assess the urgency that someone needs help, someone needs some type of support because of their mental well-being and mental state, emotional state. Okay, so one thing to consider here as far as the sensitivity to it is it's very much impacted by your ability to triage yourself. Okay, so how able are you? How developed are those skills and the awareness to understand and be aware and mindful about the specific feelings that come up at any given moment, why they're there, how they're impacting your behavior, the environment that you're in. How do you notice those things? And assess, okay, what type of response, what type of reaction do I need right now, would help me right now. And so your ability to do that very much impacts your ability to do it with other people. Okay, I don't think this is a surprise to many people listening. So, with that being said, it does impact your sensitivity to seeing it in other people. A lot of times, they say the mental health field chooses you, you don't choose it with people that work in the mental health field. So considering that, a lot of people that work in this field, they've got their own baggage. And a lot of them have worked through a lot of it with other professionals, through reading, through their own training. But bottom line is there's a sensitivity to it. And so they can pick up in those things. They can listen and pick out the message behind something, the emotion behind something, maybe more quickly than other people that are less aware about it, less trained in it. So keep in mind that sometimes when we have these personal things that we're dealing with, whether it's trauma, whether it's depression, anxiety, stress responses, whatever it may be, the way we deal with that and the way that we understand that and have processed that and our relationship with those items can easily dictate how sensitive we are to those things in other people. So there's a lot of advice that I can give to other people. That's great advice, just top-notch advice. But when I look at how I do those things, I'm like, damn, I really need to take some of my own advice and apply it a little more frequently. And so it's all a work in progress, but it is very easy to give advice to other people with something that you also struggle with, because you've kind of been down that road and okay, well, figuring out the behaviors that are going to help, figuring out the correct or more effective way of reacting or responding, that's not hard. Identifying the problem and identifying ways of changing is not hard. It's the change itself that's the very tough part. So when we're triaging someone else, the sensitivity to it and jumping into gear to quote unquote help someone else or support someone else is very much affected by that. Now, keep in mind that when you have a high sensitivity to it, I see this very frequently with parents and jumping in to triage their kids, especially if they have a history of mental health issues, or just even challenges, developmental challenges, emotional challenges over time. That parents have this built in, I don't want my kids to experience pain, and they are constantly trying to deal with the balance of that. The allowing it, the forgetting about it, the picking up on it, being hypersensitive to it. So keep in mind that when the sensitivity is pretty high and you jump into gear fast, then your kid's going to feel pretty frequently like they're becoming objectified. That there's this almost object-observer relationship where the parent is observing the kid. And you can see this in other relationships too, significant others, that the person that's trying to help the other individual, sometimes if you come off as though you are just there to give advice to fix their problem, then it's going to make the other person feel like they're an object, that you're not actually there for them, you're not actually listening, you have a response that's already ready to go. You have a solution to their problem, that the problem that exists, that's just what's kind of on the surface. That might be just one small portion of why they're saying what they're saying or why they feel the way they feel. So keep that in mind, that if you have a high sensitivity to triaging other people and trying to assess, okay, well, how do I help? What needs to be done right now? Then the other person can feel very much like an object, which isn't going to help with them opening up, with them talking about things. And they may end up seeking to keep things from you, or find another outlet. So keep that part in mind in order to kind of balance that piece out, okay? Because it doesn't mean that you can't help out, period. But some steps that you can take. One is when someone does need some type of support, or your flag goes up, it doesn't mean that you're wrong or you've assessed it wrong, but how you respond to it and react to it. Maybe you can interject a small half step before you actually kind of get going. And so first things first is absolutely try to find a way of validating how they're feeling, and most importantly, how they're feeling at this current moment. Because they're probably bringing in a lot of stuff that has already happened, or fears that are developing about things that are about to happen. But it's a lot based off of things that have already happened, and how they've processed that, come to understand those things. Now, if you validate how they feel at that current moment, then it sets the precedent that we're in this current moment. That regardless of what happened before, what's going to happen after, you're telling me this is how you feel, and feeling is very subjective. Okay, so feeling and fact could be two different things. You're not about to get into that. But if they're telling you this is how I feel, or this is what when you're really listening to them, if you can pick up on how they're feeling, then you can validate how tough something is. You could validate how depressing something may be, or how tough it is to get motivated to do something when, even if you don't understand it, don't try and convince them that you fully understand it. That's more empathy. But you can validate it. You can validate that emotion. You can validate the state that they're currently in to be true, and accept that. You and the other person can accept that. So find a way to validate it right away. I can see why it's very hard to stay motivated to do X, Y, and Z. I can see why, if it's your kid, you are struggling in math, I can see why it's tough to get motivated to do your homework for math. It's not something that's pleasant. It's not something that's fun. It's tough. I can see why that's tough. And that gives you so many more avenues to keep talking about it while they feel like you actually are listening. So validate them. The next part is kind of tough because it's a fine line between seeming like you're comparing your experience to their experience, minimizing or discounting or invalidating their experience because you're sharing one, but find a way to relate. It could be a small detail, it could be a shared experience. Find a way to relate to them. So if they're struggling with school-related things, the validation is going to come in handy, but find small ways of relating, whether it's through experience you had at their age, experience that you have now. And vulnerability is great here. So if you're a parent or you're someone where that relationship, they're like, you don't quite understand because you're old. So they might just completely write that off. If you're able to sit there and be like, well, you know what, I work with a bunch of people I really don't like. They're very annoying. They aren't fun to be around. If I had a choice, I wouldn't be around them. Kind of like school, where you have to go see a bunch of these people that you're not choosing to see, that you have to be around for the entire day. And that you understand that part, that it's different. You understand that it's different, or that you may not be able to see completely eye to eye. But being able to relate through that also helps everyone kind of stay grounded and keep the other person open. And it also prevents you from kind of sliding into that reactionary piece that we might have going on, where if the sensitivity to put that flag up of I need a triage, I need help, I need to jump in, it gives you a little bit of space between jumping in and building and establishing that baseline for them to feel like they trust you and that they can talk about these things, and that it's not just impulsive I'm worried, I'm anxious because I see something going on that's not normal. I need to figure out what's going on and solve it. All right, because that's not always your responsibility. So when it comes to the sensitivity of triaging other people, keep in mind your ability to triage yourself has a huge impact on your ability to triage other people and your sensitivity to jumping in and triaging other people. Two, when you do go to triage someone else, keep in mind that you want to validate their feelings right away. Okay, so you want to communicate clearly that how they're feeling to some degree makes sense. That this is just even active listening and reflective listening and saying, you know, this is what happened. I hear that this is how you feel. And this is how it's making you feel. I can see why you would say that. So validating their feelings in that present moment and accepting it as truth in that present moment, and then finding a way of relating to them. Okay, and so through shared experience, shared dialogue and communication stories are great ways of doing that. But make them feel heard, make them feel validated and understood. And this will also help with your ability to manage your sensitivity to jump in versus, okay, well, let's give this a little space. First, I want to make sure, you feel like you're being heard, that I'm not just here to judge you, to solve your problems, to fix what's broken with you. And so this can help bring an awareness to it, bring a piece of mindfulness into looking at someone else and communicating with someone else and supporting someone else in a different way. Okay, so triaging 101, validate, find a way of connecting and relating to them, and also just know how your biography influences and your internal dialogue and your kind of emotional journey influences your sensitivity to these things in other people and how you relate and respond to those things. So if you need to do some work on that, on your own internal state, how you figure out the urgency and how do I react and respond accordingly, then keep watching videos, reading books, or go to a trained mental health professional, a coach that specializes in this, or a counselor or therapist that does as well. So next time you kind of step into the arena or that flag goes up where you feel like you need to jump in, keep in mind those three things that I had talked about. I look forward to hearing how it goes. You can send an email over to info@utimecoach.com. You can go over to the website and check out all the blogs and videos that we have on the YouTube channel, or just drop a message onto one of our on the Facebook, Instagram, Twitter feed. And I look forward to hearing from you. Have a good one. Bye.